Hi, we are live. This is the Rich Lieberman Wednesday News Pulse. And I want to talk to you today about something which is indicative of the times that we're in. Maybe unique. I'm being very diplomatic. So, KCBS has four news cars, right? Four news cars. I'm scratching my head quite a bit because this is a head scratcher, but in a way it isn't. So they give some of these reporters news cars, but guess what? They don't pay for the gas. They don't pay for the gas. Go figure. And it's embarrassing because one of the reporters who also anchors in the middle of the night and whispers into the microphone, and yes, I am criticizing and knocking her. Her name is Mary Hughes, who should not be behind a microphone in the studio. Maybe at the very least, or at the very most, I don't know, figure it out. She should be in the field, but then I would be not showing much respect for people who are actual reporters in the field. Anyway, I'll give her credit for this unintentionally, but they have one of these news cars that they gave to Mary Hughes. Mary Hughes, as I indicated, is a reporter, sometimes anchor, and she refused the car. She didn't want to pay for the gas. And I agree with her in this instance. Has nothing to do with her reporting or her anchoring, but I gather at least she's got a little bit of self respect. So you are provided a news car, presumably to go around, drive, go to a story, and report on the news, but you got to pay for the gas. Now, in the old days, you got a car. I gather they gave you a little bit of a chit sheet, in which case gas was covered. Because if you lived in Sonoma and you had to cover a story much farther away, or in the East Bay, you lived in the city, or you were in San Jose and for whatever reason weren't covering a story in San Jose, but even if you were, but if you weren't and you had to go to San Francisco, your gas was covered. It was considered an expense. These days, I don't have to tell you. Yeah, they've gone down a little bit, gone back up. Gas prices are fairly, what, 425, 450, a little higher than that in some areas. So the bottom line is this: how tacky can you be? And this is not all KCBS. This is Odyssey, owned by Intercom, which owns all the radio stations like KNX, like KCBS. I do believe, though, this is KCBS only policy. So, first off, that doesn't do good for morale. Trust me. It's already a tough pain in the tuchus to cover stories, what with all the restraints, financial and otherwise, getting to and so forth, equipment, lack of compensation these days. But you're not going to cover gas. So, and this goes for everybody, I'm told. Nobody, well, maybe some sort of particular news executive that pretends to be the news director. I'm sure she's got some kind of coverage, although she doesn't drive the news car, which illustrates just how much news savvy Jenny Seelig has. In any event, this is really embarrassing that a major news station on paper does not provide gas for its correspondents. It's a big word for reporters. And, to me, a common sense, if you're not going to cover the gas, then what's the purpose of having news cars? Reporter could just use their own car. And if they don't have a car, well, I guess they're SOL kind of a deal. But you can't put a half a tank of gas in the car. You can't cover, God forbid, they're on a very important story and they're nearing empty or maybe past empty. How embarrassing is that? How ridiculous, how pathetic, how incompetent in terms of managing is that? Again, I will put the emphasis on the fact that it's Odyssey, which we know, like most else in radio these days, has put financial constraints on the various radio stations. I don't believe they should be screwing around with major market news cars. And yes, if there's some skullduggery and somebody's taking their spouse out for dinner or they're using the car in a non news manner, well, then that'll catch up to itself. But in the capacity of doing your job and going out and covering, say, a fire in downtown San Francisco or some kind of crime event or some type of news event, and you can't cover the gas, that, my dear, is embarrassing. Then again, it's KCBS. Another little side story. It has nothing to do with the gas. I'm told officially, for now, that Brett Burkhart will solo anchor. You may have heard this week, at least Monday and Tuesday, good old Steve Scott, who talks like this and is kind of a robotic guy who Jenny Seelig recruited herself from New York. I made a joke the other day. What? It's a guy. And then somebody told me, well, that was on purpose. She likes him, and he happens to be a guy. She only hires women, which is sort of like reverse discrimination in my book, but I'm not going to go there yet. In any event, Steve Scott, who they've been using all over the place, and presumably will be given a full-time, he is full-time, but will be given a more permanent time slot. I assume, maybe I'm a little crazy, he will be solo anchoring this week on the afternoon news. I guess Burkhart is still in shock because Patty Rising said with it, enough of this crap, I'm out of here. Basically, that's what she said. She couldn't handle the excess incompetence. Anyway, she decided to retire. She's no longer on afternoon drive. Therefore, we have the one and only Steve Scott, who talks like this and's kind of got a little bit of a kind of a DJ element to his voice. Okay. He's competent. At least he's stable. And unlike some anchors who are overnight, who should not be on the news desk, even at KCBS, talk and whisper into the microphone for no apparent reason and then talk normally like this. I don't get it. There are people at KCBS who love Mary Hughes who don't get it. She's not very good. She can talk. She can even anchor at times very clearly. The problem is when she whispers into the mic, which she does in the old hours of the early morning, that becomes a distraction, even for the 12 people that are listening at that time of the early morning. It makes no sense. Kind of like what KCBS with the whack-a-mole anchor. Anchor here, anchor there. This week early it was Eric Thomas, a bowl of energy. All of a sudden he's gone. And now you have Margie Schaefer in the morning, solo. Midday. What's her name? Oh, good old Holly Kwan. There one day, gone the next day. This station, and that's one of the main criticisms I have about this once mighty, respected, heralded radio news outlet, they have no direction. Don't give me, well, they don't have any, corporate missives and all that. BS. It's your job, Jenny, and your co pilot, whoever, whatever he does, Bastida, no relation to Ken Bastida, to program the station, to run the station, and not this guy here, this woman there, this guy here, this guy there. It is incompetent. It is absolutely maddening. And don't give me excuses. Do your job. Program it. Make some people permanent. Have some consistency. Who knows? Even though you're a monopoly and can get away with this crap, you might one day have to have a real job and actually program KCBS and not it become laughing stock for people, especially people who used to work there, who shake their heads in continued amazement that this crap is allowed to take place and you, Jenny, to get away with it. Jenny, who hasn't spent a damn minute, speaking of reporters, in the field. Jenny, any other place, you would be dead meat. You'd be bye bye. Here, take your whatever and get lost. Get back to us when you know how to run a business, but you don't know how to run a radio station. For God's sakes, get a clue, people. She doesn't know what the hell she's doing. I know it. They know it. Corporate knows it. Yet she continues to get away with it. My God.